Hi guys, my name is Tensor. Welcome to another Flutter tutorial video. In today's video we will be looking at how we can customize scroll physics and physics in general inside of Flutter. So let's talk about scrolling physics. Scrolling physics sort of acts like a ballistic pendulum. Here's what a ballistic pendulum actually looks like. So you fire something at a pendulum and it pushes the pendulum up to a certain height and then the pendulum comes back down. If you think about it, when a user pushes on a scrolling widget, their finger motion is like the bullet or the actual object that's being thrown at the pendulum, and then the motion of the screen is like the actual pendulum itself. Flutter has its own scroll physics class built directly into it, and this class has a create ballistic simulation method which we can actually use to simulate the movement of our scroll widget. The scroll physics itself describes how the viewport should react to the user's initial fling or movement. To create a custom scroll simulation, we need to create a more general custom simulation. The simulation object inside of Flutter is a generalized simulation for an object in a one-dimensional space in relation to time. Inside of this class, we have three major methods that we can override. We have the position, which is signified by the letter x. We have the velocity, which is signified by dx. And then we have this isDone method, which we can use to determine when this simulation should be finished in the timeline. Most simulations should be stateless, so that when a user actually initiates the simulation, it will be able to activate at any arbitrary time frame. Inside of this application, we're also going to be making use of a widget called a layout builder widget. And to understand this widget, you really have to understand constraints and how they work inside of Flutter. So constraints are an idea that's a little bit foreign to a lot of UX programmers. This idea that every single object has a built-in set of constraints that defines a minimum and a maximum size rather than a specific size for both the width and the height of a widget. And this is something that is fundamental to how widgets work inside of Flutter. So a stack widget, for instance, has a specific set of constraints, and it is different from a column widget, which has another specific set of constraints. The layout builder widget itself uses the parent widget's constraints, so any widget that is outside of it, to build a child widget tree, so a bunch of widgets inside of it. And you can sort of think of it like a glue widget that glues together a parent and a set of children. The layout builder itself defers building its children until the layout phase of the rendering cycle is complete. In Flutter, rendering generally works like this. The root isolate, which is essentially the root stack and heap or thread if you want to think of it that way, tells the engine that a frame needs to be rendered. Then the engine will ask the platform for the next vsync event. The platform will then wait for this vsync, and then when the vsync happens, the engine will execute the Dart code, which will then update the actual animation, rebuild the widgets inside of the application, and then lay out the newly constructed widgets and paint them into a tree of layers that will be resubmitted to the engine. Finally, it constructs and updates a tree of nodes containing semantic information about the widgets on the screen, and at this point, it actually passes the box constraints object down the tree to determine the size of each of these widgets. So painting and rendering and all of that other stuff happens before the widgets get constrained. I know this is sort of a foreign idea, it's a little bit abstract, but hopefully you guys will be able to see what I'm talking about with this example. Alright, so here's the boilerplate that we're going to be using to build our application. We've got a basic stateless widget that builds out a material application. And we also need to make two imports to get started. We need Dart async, and then we need the math library, which I'll alias as math. First, let's make our main function asynchronous, and we want to do this because we're using the layout builder widget as our scaffold. So rather than using a basic scaffold widget, we're just going to directly insert a layout builder into our material application widget. So inside of the layout builder itself, we have to define the actual builder function, which is a callback that takes in our build context and then the box constraints from our material app widget, which is the parent widget. The principal widget inside of this layout builder will be a piece of material which we'll use to color our background, and then we'll use it to build out our list view. So first I'll put in the color, and we'll have it be a specific shade of black, so a lighter shade of black than just black. And then we'll have a center in here, and then inside of our center we'll have a constrained box. And the constrained box widget allows us to take the constraints that we're passing through the layout builder and then apply them to all of the children inside of it in a very specific way. So in here we can create a constraints property, and inside of the constraints property we put in a box constraints object. For our constrained box, we'll put in a max width of 400, which is the max width of our entire viewport, and then we'll put in a max height of constraints.maxHeight, and this can be infinite. And remember, this constraints item is coming from our material application, so it's being passed down here, and like I said, it can be infinite. And if you hover over this max height item, it'll say might be double.infinity. So now we can create our list view.builder, and we want to define our item builder function, but we also want to define a property called item extent. The item extent is sort of like the height of these items in a way, but it's not directly affecting the actual height. So when we render these items out with our builder function, Flutter tries to figure out what height they should be based on a variety of things, typically based on our max width and our max height, as well as what is inside of each of these elements. By specifying a specific extent, we're telling Flutter that we want it to be a specific height and we want it to take up a specific amount of space. So in here I'll put in 250.0, and this will make it so that each of our boxes has a specific extent or takes up a specific amount of space. Now we can create our item builder, which takes in the build context and then the index, which is the current item that's being built. And we'll create containers. We'll give each of our containers a little bit of vertical padding so that they'll have padding on the top and the bottom. And then inside of each of our containers we'll have another piece of material. Then for our material we'll give it a little bit of elevation, we'll give it a circular border radius, and then because we don't want each of our items to look exactly the same, we'll make it so that every other item has a different color based on the index. So we're getting all of the even numbers and we're turning them into cayenne, and then all of our odd numbers will be a deep orange. Then to finish this off, what we'll do is we'll take and we'll put our index into a text widget, and we'll put that inside of a center element so that it will be centered inside of each of our tiles. So here's our application. So let's take a look at the basic scrolling physics of this. So if I grab it and then I let go, what will happen is it will start at a high velocity and then it will slowly slow down. So you can see here it starts at a high velocity and then it slowly comes to a stop. And I can do the same by going back up. And that is the basic scrolling physics for any item inside of Flutter. So now let's actually create our own scrolling physics. For this we want to create a simulation first. So we'll create what's called a custom simulation, and we'll extend the simulation class. And then our custom simulation will have our initial position and our velocity being passed to it. And then, as I mentioned before, we have three methods attached to this class that we can override. We have x, which is the position of our element, which is based on our time. We have dx, which is our velocity based on time. And then we have isDone, which determines whether or not the scrolling event or the simulation itself is finished based on a time frame. These two methods are fairly basic to override. For our velocity method, we just want to return the velocity that we're passing into this object, and then for isDone, we want it to always return false, so that the actual scrolling animation will not end unless the user stops it. For the position, what we'll do is we'll use math.max, which takes the larger of the two numbers, and we'll use math.min, which takes the smaller of the two numbers. So first we'll decide which one's smaller, the initial position or 0.0, and then we'll get that number. And then what we'll do is we'll take initial position, we'll add it to velocity, and then we'll multiply it by time. And we'll check to see which of these numbers is larger, and then we'll return the larger number as the actual position. And the way this will work is that the actual position will scale up linearly as we move away from the top of our scroll bar. Just to show you guys how this works, I'll put a print statement here so that you guys can see how this works. I'll put a print statement here so that when we scroll it, you'll be able to see the change in the position. I'll also put a print statement for the velocity, which we'll look at later, so I'll comment this out for now. Now let's create our scroll physics object. So we just have to extend the scroll physics object, and we'll call this custom scroll physics. There are two major methods that we want to override for this object. The first one is apply to. The apply to method essentially just applies this object to widgets based on a specific set of circumstances. So if there's already a scroll object attached to a widget, then it will automatically override that scroll object. All we want to do in this case is just return the custom scroll physics object so that we can automatically bind it to our list view. Then for the create ballistic simulation method, we just need to create an instance of our custom simulation. And what we need to do for this custom simulation is pass in the initial position, which is the position in pixels, and then the velocity, which is already being passed into this. Now we can come up to our list view builder, and we can add a property called physics, and then we can instantiate our custom scroll physics object right in line in here, and this will attach it to our list view. So here's our rebuilt application, and down here in the debug console you can see the actual position being printed out. So currently I haven't moved it, so the position will be 0.0, and as soon as I move it, the position changes. So I just moved it slightly and it became 63.40. So now let's take a look at our scroll animation. So if I just flick it, you can see it just moves and it will just keep going forever, because the velocity will never change from what we initially set it at. So in other words, there's nothing to stop this from just going infinitely until I click on the screen like this. And we can go even faster. And you can see it's going pretty quickly. So we're already up to like index 400. And I'll just stop it. So we stopped at 458. And you can see that the actual position is pretty far. Now let's take a look at the velocity. So if I flick it, you can see here it goes up to 7,882. If I do it again, you'll see it says negative 0.0, but then when I stop it, it gives us the actual velocity that it was at. So it was at 7,958. If we want to go a little crazy, we can put a constant velocity in here, and you can see that the index is going up pretty quickly. So we're already at like 60,000 and it's still going up pretty quickly because I put in 1 million as the velocity. And I can still stop it, but as soon as I let it go, it will just keep going. And this can go on forever because there's really nothing to stop it. So anyway, I'm going to stop that because it's making me sick. And I'll just put our velocity back in there and reload it. And you'll see that we're up in an insanely high index because I just let it run for a few seconds. Alright guys, well I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you did, feel free to like and subscribe. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them in the box below. And if you dislike this video, then by all means downvote it as much as you like. Have a good day.